Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Davis, and I am the current president of the Hartford Public Library Board of Directors, and I'm chairing the Transition Committee. I'd like to welcome you all here to our community forum this evening. And without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dan Bradbury, who is going to be facilitating tonight's discussion. Thank you.
I'm going to adjust this. He's a little bit taller than me, so again, welcome. And I just want to run through some logistics with everyone, just so you know what the plan is. Each of your three candidates for president of the Hartford Public Library, I'm not sure if my voice is going to cooperate, have been given a topic. And the topic that they have been given is, given what you know about the city of Hartford and the Hartford Public Library, describe the Hartford Public Library of tomorrow. So we've given each of them 12 minutes to both introduce themselves and to address that topic. And once each of them comes up, has an opportunity to present, we will then ask them to sit as a panel in front here, and with your cooperation, we will ask them your questions. And we're going to ask you to write those questions on 3x5 cards. I and my colleagues, Jo Beth is over on the left, and Karen is in the back. We will collect those cards, and then Jo Beth will be the master inquisitor and address your questions to the candidates. So it's important. We have received a few questions in advance, so we have some starters, but we're going to depend on you to really provide the meat of the questions for the candidates. You have at your seat a brief bio on each of the candidates. I need to pull my props out. And you also have a feedback form. And the feedback form is in the order that the candidates will be presenting. You can fill out this feedback form, or better yet, just take your own notes, however you want to take them, and email them to us. Jo Beth's address is at the top of the form. If you email them to us, we will compile these, share them with the board tomorrow after their interviews and before they make their decision, or the transition committee, before they make their decision and recommendation. So the other props are the 3x5 cards and the incredibly bad golf pencils. So hopefully you have something else to write on, or write with, rather than a golf pencil. I think that's it on the formalities, and we will just cut immediately to the presentations. And the first candidate up is Luren Dickinson, and he's the director of the Shaker Heights, Ohio Public Library. So, Luren, over to you.
You can applaud, that's fine. Well, good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here, and like to thank you all for coming. And first off, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a native of New York State, born and raised. But most of my higher education was in the state of California, where I graduated and earned my MLS at UCLA. I've worked in all different types of libraries, academic, special, and public libraries. And I've worked in all levels of positions in libraries. But I've devoted my career to public libraries, and I've been the director of a library in 3 different states, 4 different libraries. I've been a county librarian twice, and I've served county as large as 160,000 people, and that was the Jackson District Library in Michigan, which had a main library, an administration building, and 12 branches across the county. I also served as the District Library Center Administrator for the County of Berks in Pennsylvania, where I was Director of Libraries for the Reading Public Library, and that county was 380,000 people. For the last 10 years, I've been at the Shaker Heights Public Library, which is one of the better funded and busiest libraries in the country for its size. We just completed our 15th consecutive year with a circulation in excess of 1 million items, and that's in a community of about 33,000. So what I want to do to start off with, because I wanted to take a little bit of a different angle than maybe the other speakers will do, and I'm doing this in more of a verbal format rather than having slides. What I wanted to do was to identify some areas where I think the Hartford Public Library can excel in the next few years, the library of tomorrow, where Hartford Public Library will excel. Because I think I've had success in my career identifying big problems in an area or in the field of librarianship and moving forward to address those problems, to solve those problems, and so on. And so what I've done is I've identified 5 areas where I think there might be challenges in the future, but where I think, or maybe where there are strengths. Some of these are strengths of the library already, but areas that I think are going to be important in the future and how they will play out here in this community and where the Hartford Public Library can excel in the future. And that first area is technology. We're in a period of time where things are changing tremendously rapidly. There's talk about this, the Internet of Things. Everything now is tied to the internet. You can pull out your cell phone and start your car, or change the temperature back at your home, or look at a camera to see what's happening with your cat or your dog back in the house. We are seeing things like 3D printing and virtual reality just kind of taking over almost overnight. And we're going to see tremendous changes in the future with all of these things. We're going to see more things with personal digital assistants, with robots, with all sorts of artificial intelligence that's going to happen very rapidly in the next few years. And I think this is a place where the Hartford Public Library will be excelling because of the region where you are, because of some of the connections you have, the partnerships you're developing, for example, with the UConn Hartford campus, some of the work you're already doing with the teens in the space that you have for them where they can experiment with media and computers and technology. I think this puts you on a good footing for where you might go in the future. And the other thing is that because of this technology, the way the librarians do their job is going to change over the next few years, and it's already been changing. And I was complimenting the HR director here earlier this morning in the fact that they're already starting to change some of the job titles, because the old-fashioned titles that we've had in libraries over the years really don't fit anymore. And for example, I think there's something called an immigration counselor here at the Hartford Public Library. And there might be life stages workers in the future that will address people where they are at certain stages in their life, from children on up to adults and seniors. And so I think that's something that's already happening, and that I think it's an area where the library can excel. Another thing that's happening is the way people use libraries is changing. And we're seeing this at my library and other libraries in my region, where we're seeing audiovisual use drop dramatically, especially the last few years. I call it the video bubble has burst. The video bubble has burst. Libraries back in the late 80s, early 90s saw their circulation surge when the VHS videotape came out and became so popular. We were attracting people to libraries that we never saw before. That's changing now, and people are going elsewhere to get their videos, and libraries, frankly, are being blocked from getting the types of videos that people want to see by the publishers of these films and the feature films, largely, that people want to see. So these are things we need to address, but at the same time, we're seeing that the use of print books is not declining nearly as rapidly. In fact, it's kind of settling out in our area, and we're seeing a rise in ebooks. And I'm predicting in my area, within about 5 years, we're not going to be circulating physical videos any longer because it's going to have run its course. And I see in the 10-year projection that print books and ebooks will probably be about equal about 10 years from now. So we're not going to see the printed book disappear very rapidly. It's going to be here for years to come. And I think this is another area where maybe the usage patterns aren't quite the same in this community, but it's something that you're looking at and addressing, and I think it's an area where the library can excel. The second area is working with youth. When I was researching the topic of the community, I noticed that you had a very poor central city area, but yet you had a very high birth rate, and looked it up, and I found out that the city of Hartford was named 2 years ago to the top 10 cities in the country with number of children under the age of 5. And I think that's a good thing, because you're going to be having young people growing up in this community, immigrants coming into the community, and that's usually something that leads to economic growth. And so I'm seeing that this is good for the city. And I really like what you're doing with the schools, the Boundless Partnership. We've done a lot of this in Shaker Heights. We've worked trying to establish an A+ Partners program with the schools, and we work with Early Childhood Task Force, with the Achievement Gap, with the STEM programs, and so on. So I think that's another key area where the library can excel. Thirdly, funding and fundraising, I think, is a very important issue, and it's an area that I've worked with over the years in both good economies and bad economies. I was the secretary of the Reading Public Library Foundation, where with the help of one of the attorneys on our board, we were able to raise $2 million through bequests for that foundation, which later really helped the collection development budget for that library. I've been very successful in obtaining grants. In Reading, we had $1 million in grants over a 5-year period, and the youth program that we have in Shaker Heights, we brought in $1.5 million over a 7-year period, with a third of that money being for summer jobs for teens, money that went into the pockets of the youth. And of course, I've worked very closely with Friends of the Library groups over the years and done fundraisers and so on. The fourth item is arts and culture, and this is, I think, an area where Hartford is way ahead of the game. You have some excellent facilities, and you have some outstanding programs, and I think it's something that you can even build on in the future. We had a STEM program that we've turned into a STEAM program because we think arts are very important. And I've been instrumental in bringing authors to the libraries I've been at. I brought John Updike to Reading. We brought Elmore Leonard and Maya Angelou to Jackson. And just this past fall, we brought Anthony Doerr, the Pulitzer Prize winner for fiction, to Shaker Heights. And I think that's something that could enhance the program here at this library with more involvement with authors. And I think that's another area where the library can excel in the days and years ahead. And then finally, I think it's important to celebrate achievements. And this library has a lot to celebrate. And I was looking at the calendar, and my thought was, well, what's going to happen in a few years? There's a very important thing that this library needs to celebrate, because this library has a long history. But before I mention that last point, I did want to mention that I did work at a library that was older than this library, and that was the Reading Public Library, which dates itself back to 1763 with the initial meeting of the Reading Library Company. documented in this book, The Library That Would Not Die. Is that a gruesome title or what? And I think over the years, the Reading Public Library has started and stopped and started and stopped, and it's never, but it's never died. And so that was the reason for the title of the book. But that brings up the point that this library can date itself back to 1774. Well, if you fast forward 250 years to the future, that's the year 2024. It's not that far away. And in fact, it's almost not too soon to start planning for the 250th anniversary of the Hartford Public Library. And all I can say is that I hope that I am here to help you celebrate. Thank you very much.
Do be thinking of those questions so you can write them down. So we'll have questions for the candidates during the panel portion of the program. Our next candidate is Molly Fogarty, and Molly is the library director of the Springfield, Massachusetts Public Library. So, Molly.
Hopefully this technology will work.
I'll give you a tip.
Okay.
When you're ready to go,
Yes.
just give the booth a thumbs up. And
Oh,
I
okay.
think,
Great.
good technical help.
That's important. Can't live without it. Oh, great. Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you. I know this is a really important decision for all of you, picking your next CEO, and I want to thank you all for the opportunity to be here and to talk to you and tell you my thoughts about the future of the Hartford Public Library. You have my bio, so I won't go through all that. I've been a library director in Springfield for the past 6 years, and pretty much started working in Springfield as a branch supervisor, branch manager, then assistant director, and then appointed director. So I've always worked in an urban library. Urban libraries are my passion, and I couldn't consider working in anything but an urban library. That's just me. So I've also been very involved in my profession. I was president of the Mass Library Association, and I chaired committees, the Committee on Legislation for the American Library Association, the Chapter Relations Committee, and participated heavily in my profession. So I was able to bring all that back to Springfield. And I would say, before I go into my presentation, what I'm really very proud about my tenure as director in Springfield was coming up with a plan for sustainable library services for the city of Springfield with the support of our mayor and our board. And as a result of that, we were able to increase our funding by 25%, over $1 million, and we were able to have branches open every single day of the week and have our programs and services, just the percentage increases are amazing. Young adult programming up 150%, young adult program attendance up at least that amount, children's programming up over 100%, and our circulation did go up quite a bit because the branches were then open 6 days a week, which before they were open 3 days a week, and we're starting, just to be transparent, I don't think that's going to continue. We're starting to see that level off, but it showed what happens when you open the doors and make hours and services available to the residents of your community. So I'm going to start my presentation, and do I need to do anything here? Just click this. I'm used to a Mac, so I'm having like, let me see. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm going to, my way of thinking is a little linear. So before I talk about the public library of tomorrow, I want to talk a little bit about the library of today. And I'm going to start talking a little bit about what's really, how I would approach looking at the future for the Hartford Public Library. Your strategic plan ended in 2015, so you have, this is the time to bring on a new plan. I would look at what's working, what's not working. I'd look at what's needed and what's no longer needed, what's fundable and sustainable. And the Hartford Public Library, the staff and the trustees need to invite you, the community, and the funding partners to find shared priorities and gaps. And together, the community, the staff, the trustees will determine the Hartford Public Library of tomorrow. So let's start today. What's working? I did a lot of research on what you're doing now. You're doing amazing things. It looks to me that you have sustainable funding for library services now and the future. Oh, okay, just a little more. Okay. Can you hear me better now? Oh, thank you. Okay. You have strong community engagement with city leaders, with residents, with foundations, with businesses. You have totally out-of-the-box thinking. I don't think your staff know what a box is. I mean, they're out there coming up with the best and latest in planning services for their community. You have expanded city impact. You have increased organizational flexibility with how you're organizing your staff and your teams and your services. And when I looked at the vision that you had in your previous long-range plan, you said that you wanted Hartford to be a national leader in redefining the urban public library in the 21st century, and you have done that. You're winning all kinds of awards. Everyone knows about the Hartford Public Library if you go to the American Library Association, if you go to the Urban Libraries Council. You've been finalists for the National Medal of Honor, so you're doing amazing work. So what's not working, I'm not prepared to talk about that. I think it would have to be determined by the new strategic planning, because there are always things that don't work and need to be changed. So you would definitely want to interview community residents, leaders, officials, and funders, interview and engage the staff, review and analyze library and community statistics, review your operations, review your budget, and align your organization with citywide needs and goals, and then look at budget scenarios that would best allocate library funding. Then you discuss this with your trustees, staff, city leaders, and residents, and then taking all of that information, which it would take a while to get together, but it's well worth all that effort. Then you would build the Hartford Public Library of tomorrow, challenge the status quo, explore new ideas, potential new services, and find new funding partners in the community. So looking at the role of library and librarians today, there are national initiatives going on, and I would definitely want to look at those and incorporate that into the planning for the future. American Library Association has a Transforming Communities campaign, which is a real strong effort on advocacy and finding for more funding. And the Center for the Future of Libraries, which is, if you go on the American Library Association website and look at that, the thinking is so far out in the future, but it kind of reminds me of a time when I remember seeing an old video of a time when people said, can you imagine that someday you're going to go through a toll booth and you won't have to stop and they'll deduct the money from your bank account, and everyone says, oh, that's ridiculous, that's not going to happen. So the things that are being looked at as future trends are, they're in the future, but they'll be here before you know it. The Urban Libraries Council, Building Connected Communities Initiative, which is the EDGE initiative, and when you look at how you provide technology and bridging the digital divide in your community, how important that is. And Harwood and the civic engagement, which the Hartford Public Library is part of the the libraries transforming communities. There are a lot of those initiatives going on. And Springfield, we were one of the 10 libraries as well, so we've worked closely, our staff, with your staff in moving that along. Some of the roles are programs and civic engagement, which you are very involved in. I won't read all I think I'm going to run out of time if I continue to read these. Outreach, working with schools, social service agencies. Hartford does so much of that, and you would continue to do that. Your partnership with UConn is incredible. The fact that you will be having the library for the downtown campus for UConn is incredibly innovative and very creative way of providing service. Literacy, we all do literacy, promoting literacy for all ages. Programs and partnerships, community collections, research assistance, building print, media, online collections, and helping people find the information that you need. You'll continue to do that regardless of the formats. And the Pew Research Center just released their new study, and there are services that they ask people to rank in terms of their priorities for their communities, and you're doing all of them. You're doing all of them. Offering early literacy programs, working with the local schools, teaching people digital tools, especially children and senior citizens, creating special programs for new Americans, for veterans, and creating comfortable community spaces in your libraries. 3D printers, your U-Media program is amazing, and that would just continue. And the whole idea, even if looking at the branches, getting so excited about the branches, I got to visit 3 of them, they're wonderful. Looking at the space in your branches, how much of the collection do you really need, how much community space do you need, and how do you balance that in your locations. And also, I think it's important for the Hartford Public Library, you're already doing that today, but to continue to do this tomorrow, to align yourself with your community. I don't know if your city has a strategic plan. I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it. So, but if there is one or if there isn't one, work with the city to have one for the whole city, but have a core list of city priorities. Look at your buildings. Look at your transportation, your proximity of your buildings to each other, and look at your community needs by looking at your demographics. And I would identify, I think these are common citywide needs and goals for urban libraries: community and civic engagement, building community, building pride in the city that you live in, education, focusing on early childhood literacy, out-of-school programs, the reading success initiatives, and adult literacy and lifelong learning. And obviously, the new fundraising landscape is changing. Libraries traditionally rely, public libraries, on their municipalities for funding, and that basically funds your staffing and your basic operation costs. So when you're trying to do new and innovative programs, you need to go out and find funding partners, which you're already doing, so I would continue to do that. And grants, and really impact the advocacy that you do for your library. So some recommendations that I would look to the future for Library of Tomorrow. Continue your focus on your customer, the consistency and quality of the services that you provide to all of your users. Looking at working smarter to provide effective services. Having clear, fair, and flexible policies. Empowered, engaged users. And one thing that I really feel is important is to increase time for staff to plan their programs and outreach to meet citywide needs, and increase the capacity for library development. Look at more major donors, business partners, fundraising events, grants. I mean, that's what you're doing now. And then definitely increasing the capacity for technology services. That's where I know that Luren mentioned some of the sort of far-fetched things that are out there, including robotics, and I've read something about drones are becoming, that could be a way that you could deliver books to homebound people. So those are things that are out there. And also just all the data that is out there. Some of the trends that when I was looking at the ALA Center for the Future of Libraries was the drones came up, the data that's out there. Digital natives, that whole new way of thinking that young people have that is so different in how they process information and how they learn and how they want to have services provided to them. But that digital native thing doesn't work for people who are new Americans, new immigrants, refugees, and low-income students. So we still need, the library needs to really focus on that audience and train them to become digital natives. Connected learning, how people learn right now. It's so different through social media, and you do a lot of that already with your online access to programs and classes that people can learn. So the shared economy is really, really important. How people use our spaces, having business centers, and providing that opportunity for people to build their own businesses and get training and have space to do it and to collaborate on programs. And the maker movement is huge. So, and you have that with your digital media lab, but that's really important for adults too. Adults are learning new ways of doing things, and it's really important to expand that out. The other issue, the Internet of Things that I want to bring up as well. You know, when you can have your refrigerator email you and tell you that you're running low on milk, you know, that's going to impact how we do business in the library as well. So really looking at, you know, technology, education, economics, demographics, even, you know, the aging population, you know, with some people feeling threatened that entitlements will go away, and how do we provide services to seniors. There's just so much changing, and it's changing at such a rapid pace. So I think we need to really continue ongoing engagement with city leaders and make sure we're visible in the community, align our needs, our services with city needs and goals, and then implement short-term actions to build that momentum. And I just, you know, I was fortunate to have some time to visit some of your branches today, and they're just all really bustling places, busy with families, busy with kids, and very, very dedicated staff who are working really hard to provide services throughout the city. So you have a great branch system, and my statement to you is, as we implement our changes, and there you are on the screen, but we'll actively seek input from feedback from the city residents and on the progress we are making, and make sure that they're satisfied with library services. So it's an ongoing process. I mean, change and the future it's a process that we have to be engaged with each other constantly and make sure we're meeting all of the needs in the city. So thank you.
I know we had a few people join us, new people. If you're wondering what the paper is on the seats beside you or that you happen to be sitting on, there is a feedback form. We and the transition committee is very much interested in your feedback about the candidate's presentation. So please fill this out, leave it after the end of the panel, or better yet, email us at the address at the top of the form. Also, the 3x5 cards, please write your questions down and we will deliver those to the candidates shortly. And now we're ready to talk to the final candidate for your CEO position. Let me introduce Bridget Quinn-Carey, who is the interim president and CEO of the Queens Library. Bridget.
Hello, everyone. Let's see. Let me get my my tech up here, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay. Well, you have my bio. You have the info about me, so I won't go into that. But I thought what might be a better way to introduce myself is to tell you why I became a librarian and why I am a librarian. I graduated with that very practical degree of English literature and rhetoric, and unfortunately, at the time I was looking for employment, it was a little mini recession. Remember in the 90s, before the big boom, there wasn't a heck of a lot going on. So my mother recommended, she said, why don't you go to library school? She worked in children's services in the small little teeny library on Long Island where I grew up, and I said, oh, all right, I guess. I don't have anything else to do. So I did that, and my goodness, am I so happy I followed her advice. It was excellent advice from the moment I started the program and started working as a children's librarian trainee at a wonderful public library down on Long Island. I was hooked, and I've been in it ever since. And except for a very brief stint at the state library, I've been a public library person and have loved every minute of it. I've moved around a lot in my career, and I owe a lot of that to the support of my wonderful family, and my husband's here this evening to lend moral support. But what that's been able to do is give me a lot of different perspectives of how libraries work in communities and what they offer. It's often taken me out of my comfort zone. It's made me a much more flexible leader and person, and somebody that's able to adapt to change, lead through change, and lead through some very, very challenging situations. I've worked in tiny libraries where I'm maybe one of 2 or 3, as well as very large urban libraries. And I feel all that I've done in my career has really been great preparation for me to be here with you in Hartford, leading the Hartford Public Library. So let's talk a little bit about the future of the Hartford Public Library. I think there's so much opportunity there. Hartford is, let's see if my clicker's working. No, all right, I'll go old school. There we go. Hartford is the center of Connecticut. It's the geographic center. It's the center of government, center of culture, center of industry. It really sets the tone, and there's a lot of thought leadership here. So the Hartford Public Library has the opportunity to take an even greater role in creating a model for efficient, effective, community-based, robust, innovative 21st century public library services, particularly for diverse urban environments. And these are the areas where Hartford Public Library in Hartford can continue to expand and enhance the quality of life for all of its residents, as well as all the visitors that come to Hartford through its physical locations and through online offerings. But it's definitely worth noting that there are some unique challenges and circumstances here in Hartford that affect what goes on and where services need to be addressed. Almost 50% of households speak a language other than English at home, and I'm sure that's not news to you. I'm speaking to the community, but that obviously indicates that this library has to really look at that and continue to offer robust services to new Americans through ESL and English language learning, as well as other supportive services to ensure that they're successful in this community and in their new home. But it's also an opportunity to really celebrate that diversity. What a unique opportunity and challenge that is. So, when you've got a diverse population, there's a lot to celebrate for different cultures, for small businesses. So many immigrants create small businesses. That's great for the economy. It brings an international perspective. It brings wonderful restaurants, language skills, and a commons for creative ideas. And that's where I think the library needs to look at when we're thinking about serving that population. But another challenge is literacy rates in Hartford have been chronically low for a long time, and I've seen some reports where functional illiteracy is at 70%, and that's just not acceptable in this day and age, particularly for a city that wants to thrive and that wants to have an educated and well-skilled workforce. But who better to assist with addressing those challenges than the library? And it's already doing that, so that needs to continue to be a focus, because there are proven models of success to get to improved literacy rates. It doesn't happen overnight. It wouldn't happen with us alone, but we can move the needle and end the cycles of low literacy and put people on a path to success. So the Hartford Public Library of the, I'm going in the wrong direction. Okay, Hartford Public Library of the future is a change agent. And I think the Hartford Library has the opportunity to play a critical role to ensure that there's equality. I mean, libraries really are the great equalizers. That is an important role that we play. We are open to all. We provide learning opportunities for all. That is part of our mission in any public library. But we have a unique opportunity to make sure that there's digital equality. That's a role that public libraries, I think, are uniquely positioned to play. Access to technology, to broadband resources, and help with navigating those, learning how to use the devices, learning how to be critical about the resources that are out there and how to find those resources, as well as curating the content ourselves and making sure that it's there for people. The change agent, though, is also important for the library to serve as a role for social change, to create and foster and support positive social and civic engagement. And that's already happening in your libraries. I loved hearing from Christina today at the Albany branch about everything that you're doing and how much you know about the community groups. And I'm sure you're not alone. There's other colleagues that are that engaged. But that was so impressive to see the list of all of the community groups that you know what they're doing and where they are and what they're doing in their communities. And that's the kind of structure that fosters school success, economic success, reduced crime, better quality of life. And there's 10 branches in the 17 neighborhoods of Hartford. That's a great structure, a great framework from which to build even greater community engagement. But the Hartford Library also has a role to play in social justice. Opportunities to make sure everybody is invited to participate, to speak, and to be heard, to celebrate the diversity of perspective and experience, and enable thoughtful exploration of ideas and culture. And making sure that we're partners in ensuring that our communities are safe and creating opportunities for constructive dialogue and positive interactions. Some of the programs that I've been involved in the past that help create this strong social fabric are working with the DEA's office on something called a Second Chance program for low-level offenders, especially youth offenders, for youth courts, for young adult literacy programs, for alternative high schools, for career guidance and mentoring, because that's what helps a community be strong, and the library does have an opportunity to be part of that change. The Hartford Public Library is also of the future is the connector. Again, with that community engagement, I would love to see an opportunity to create friends groups, because friends groups really are advocates, and advocacy is key. Robust engagement at city, state, and federal levels. I would bring that. I would want to tell this story to everybody that would listen. I'd also want to work with other urban library systems in Connecticut to speak with one voice regarding the unique needs and challenges facing urban libraries in Connecticut. So Scott Hughes at Bridgeport, and Martha Brogan at New Haven, Alice Knapp at Stamford, Suzanne Marieski's here from New London. I think we can really come together to help have that conversation and to learn from each other, and again, speak with one voice, and that would be a really strong thing. Creating a cultural pass program. There's so many wonderful cultural opportunities here to be able to do that in partnership with them for theater, for art institutions, and I hear there's going to be a botanical gardens at the old Colt factory. What a great way to provide environmental programming and teach environmental stewardship and sustainability. We'd love to see the One Book initiative extend to more organizations. And expanding the school partnerships. I stopped by the SAN branch today and learned from Linda about the Boundless program. Amazing work that is. That's a great, great program. But how can we also expand that partnerships with community colleges, with CCSU, with Charter Oak? Is there an opportunity for the library to help in that distance education role and supporting those students? But I think the Library of the Future is also going to be an important connector with the private sector. So engaging private sector, yes, we want to encourage investment, but we also want those people as volunteers and as engaged stakeholders. We just did an engineering fair at the library where we had an engineering firm come and work with all the kids, and it was great. Those kids are seeing a path, a career path, and also mentors in the community that are from their communities, are from their towns, and have gone on to great things. So that's a great opportunity. The Hartford Public Library is a catalyst for transformation in the future. I'm all about results, and I think as Molly mentioned, it is time for the new strategic plan. This is great timing. But I hate strategic plans that just get done and sit on a shelf. I want impact plans, and I want them to be assessed regularly to make sure that we are on target and we're doing what we said we're going to do. Where can we move the needle? We can move the needle with literacy, focusing on that early learning. That's great what's happening here with the new early learning section upstairs. We can do that with technology and workforce development, Skilled workforce is key to economic success, and I think the library has a real opportunity to help make sure that that happens. And we also need to make sure that there's technology access, and that's a great place to partner with the private sector and with government to make sure that there is, universal Wi-Fi, there is universal broadband, and that people have the devices and the connections to get there. And leveraging the two most important assets we have, the HPL workforce, Hartford Public Library workforce, a great team of people. I enjoyed meeting all of the people I met today. I wish I could have gotten to all of the branches, but skill-based training, customer service, management training programs, health and wellness, employee engagement, employee recognition. The staff needs to feel really appreciated, engaged, and valued because they are critical to delivering the 21st century services that are needed in our communities. And also leveraging real estate. You've got 10 buildings or 10 locations in Hartford. Are we putting that to the best use? Are there alternative uses for when those libraries are closed? I know that there's logistical challenges to that, but that's an idea worth exploring to see if really we're making the most of all of our assets. So the Hartford Public Library of the future, it's a destination, statewide, national, international, and really will have an important impact. It is an incredibly well-regarded library system already across the country. The Hartford Public Library have diversified funding. Public funding is critical, but it also has to come from philanthropic resources, from grants, public and private, through increased advocacy, through creative uses of space, through specialized services and sponsorships. The Hartford Public Library of the future will focus on impact and outcomes in all we do for continuous improvement of key programs and services. But most important, the Hartford Library of the future is a change agent, a connector, and a catalyst. So that is my vision for the future of the Hartford Public Library, and I look forward to working with you to make this vision a reality. Thank you. I think I got a new one up there. So
And now we're going to ask all three of the candidates to come up and have a seat. And I'm going to introduce you to the president of our company, JoBeth Bradbury. And for those of you, again, in the back, we are the search firm working with the transition committee to help you find your next CEO for the Hartford Public Library.
Are you going to pick up questions?
And I do need to pick up your questions if you have them. Our colleague Karen Miller is over on that side, and we have some starters up here, and we'll go from there.
Well, I can start until we get our questions. And I do want to mention that since we're on a time schedule tonight, we are having a reception after the formal part of our program. So once we're done, if you have other questions that did not get asked of the candidates, please feel free to grab them. They will be at the back of the room, and I'm sure we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. So before I give you all of these hard questions, tell us in 10 seconds or less, each of you, what you're reading, viewing, listening to, and recommending to people.
On my bedside table, I have the newest book from Ben Bernanke, because I'm a closet economist at heart, and it's a fascinating read, believe it or not. So I would recommend that highly. Thank you.
I enjoy reading mysteries, so I've been looking at lots of mysteries and reading them. And the latest one I did read, Tana French's new book, and I love her stories. I love the Irish twist to them, so that's what I'm reading.
One book that impacted me recently was a book called Breaking Night, a true story of a young woman who made it through a long homeless period and made it to Harvard. She grew up in New York City, and her byline is Homeless to Harvard.
Thank you. This question is for Molly. Molly, how would you create or ensure an environment that is committed to diversity at HPL as well as the community?
Well, in terms of diversity, the city of Hartford is an extremely diverse community. So I would certainly make sure that all of the programs and services that we develop and provide would not only celebrate that diversity, but find out from the community what they need and make sure that we're providing those services for them. It's always great to have a very diverse staff as well, and a lot of times it's been, I know in Springfield we really try to hire, especially on our clerical level from the neighborhoods in which they work, and that has made a huge difference. And it's great role models for the children and teens that come in the library when they see the diversity of their community represented in the staff that we have.
Thank you. Luren, you mentioned Hartford having the largest population under the age of 5. What specific steps would you take to engage these children and their families in 30 seconds or less?
They only have 30 seconds to engage with the library?
You only have 30 seconds, and you just used 5.
Well, I would like to see an expansion of a program that we use called Play and Learn Station, which is a space designated with literacy, developmental materials and toys and so on equipment that is geared toward preschoolers with their parents or with a caregiver. And we have also a space for what we call Play and Learn Babies. So even kids as young 0 to 18 months can be involved in this. And it brings people to the library that wouldn't come otherwise, and they get to meet other parents, and it's a great thing to get kids ready for kindergarten.
Thank you. Bridget, can you describe your fundraising experience with municipal leaders, mayors, city council, individuals?
Absolutely. In every position that I've held in libraries, that's been a key part. You know, the director, CEO, president is there to ensure and work with the board to ensure that there's adequate resources to operate the library. Most recently, we had great success in New York City and got an increase of $12 million for our operating budget. You know, by scale, that may sound like a lot, but over 20% of the budget had been cut for the previous 5 years. So that really that represents a partial restoration of the funding that had been cut over the years. How does that happen? Well, that happens by just dogged, relentless advocacy and visits and talking about the value of libraries and why they're important for economic success, social justice, education, and demonstrating to the elected officials how it's in their best interest to support the library, because that's how their communities are going to be successful. And that has worked in those instances. I would also say when I was at the Essex Library, I was successful in advocating for an increase in support. When I first got to the library, the public support that came to the library was very, very minimal, and it's still, on balance, private support is more than public. But we were able to really flip that too, because public institutions need public funding. They need diverse revenue streams without a doubt, but that public funding is essential to ensure that there is equality across. So I have had quite a bit of success in getting increased operating support for libraries.
Okay, thank you. And just keep the mic. I have another question for you. Briefly, how would you create or ensure an environment that is committed to diversity at HPL as well as the community?
Well, that is just kind of sewn into my fabric of providing libraries now. I mean, like Hartford, Queens is an incredibly diverse, I think the most diverse county in the nation, if not the world. And serving that population is really a joy and a pleasure, because it's always something new. Part of what's important is keeping up with the trends, the shifts in population, and every library I visited today, I asked the question, I'm like, is this a stable population? Is it a changing population? And in every single place I visited, they all said, oh no, it's a changing population. We have the benefit of having a demographer on site to help with mapping this. I know that that's not, in reality necessarily for every library to have, but those kinds of principles are important to be able to track and understand the changing natures of communities, and then looking to those key partners to make sure that the voices are heard for the people that are in the communities. It's collections, it's programs, it's services, it's alternative languages for written materials on the website, and it's also, I think, as Molly pointed out, is hiring, making sure that the staff, the employees, represent the communities that are served, and that is really a key factor to ensuring that there's diversity in services, is making sure we have a diverse workforce.
Thanks. Molly, how will you keep the branches vital to their neighborhoods?
Well, neighborhood branches, they're vital right now, and they're an anchor in their neighborhoods and an anchor in their communities. In Springfield, our branches are so important to their neighborhoods that when one branch was closed in 2003 for a variety of reasons, which I won't go into, it took 8 years for the community to advocate to get that library back. And I was telling someone earlier the story. Our strongest advocate was a 96-year-old woman who lived in the neighborhood. Her name was Ruth Loving. And she was feisty, and she went to city council meetings, and she met with the mayor, and we have to get this library open. And we all just kept praying that she would be alive when this library was open. And we were able to celebrate her 100th birthday there. So it was an amazing experience. But the branches are our anchors in the community. They're places where new immigrants can go and learn how to read and learn English. My parents, I wasn't born in this country. My parents came over here with us as small children. That's what they did. They went to the library. They learned how to read. They knew how to read, but they learned English, and they learned the culture. So the branches are key. I mean, the downtown library that you have is absolutely beautiful, and you provide so much here, and it's an incredible cultural destination for the city. But the branches are anchors out in the community, and they're desperately needed by the residents of those neighborhoods.
Thank you. Luren, what resources and programs would you continue, enlarge, or initiate for senior adults? And in parentheses, this person wrote, "We are not all immersed in technology and electronics."
Well, I think that print materials, as I mentioned in my remarks, are going to be with us for a long time yet, and I think that might be a key area for seniors to know that would be something that you would continue to see in the Hartford Public Library. But I would also encourage seniors to take a look at some of the technology that's available, because some of our biggest ebook readers actually are seniors themselves. They just find it easier to hold a lighter device that can be put into the type size that they want, and that is in an easy to use form, and maybe is more versatile in some ways than a printed book. And what we're going to be experimenting with is we're going to be beta testing readers that are going to be loaded with 100 books. So think of that. You can carry a fairly light device that's loaded with 100 items, check it out once, and have a variety of materials to be able to choose from at the same time. So I think there are all sorts of great programs that the library is running, that could help seniors. I know you're doing a volunteer income tax assistance program. You have all sorts of great cultural programs, and I think those are, this library just does so many wonderful things. It's hard to find fault with anything that you do, and I don't want to go any further without also complimenting the staff. You just have a remarkable staff here at this library. From person to person to person, just outstanding people, and I think that's another way. Just having outstanding people like that is a better way to serve the public, whether you're a senior or whether you're a student.
Thank you. Now, those were all fun questions. Some hard questions. Molly, first.
Thank you.
We know you applied for a position with Hartford several years ago, and you were offered the position. So the question is, why not then and why now?
Excellent question. I asked myself that many times. I applied for the position in Hartford for the Chief Public Services Officer and went through many interviews, met with many trustees and staff, and I was really very honored to be offered the position. At the exact same time, I was also offered the directorship in Springfield. And it was a really hard decision. I really wanted, there's something about Hartford that draws me. I don't know what it is. I keep driving south. I come here to go out to eat. We go to events at the Bush now. There's something about the city, the energy here, the fact that you're the capital of the state and all the wonderful things you're doing. But at that point, I felt I really wanted to be a director. And while I would have had a really important, vital role here in Hartford, I would not have been the director, so I chose to accept my other position. I was fortunate to have 2 job offers right at the same time. I'm not saying that I didn't lose a lot of sleep wondering if I made the right decision when I saw all the wonderful things that were happening here, but I feel that I did. I think I made a real difference in Springfield, and I think that making that decision, being a director for almost 6 years now, just about another couple of weeks, has made me a much better and stronger candidate for becoming the CEO here in Hartford. I've learned a lot, and I think I made a real difference in Springfield, and I would like to do that here in Hartford.
Thanks. Bridget, this one's for you. We've read the reports about the comptroller's allegations about inappropriate library expenditures at Queens. What is your response to this?
I mean, it's been pretty well documented that the Queens Library has gone through a challenging time these last few years. I've been the interim president and CEO for 18 months. I was put in that position after, a robust engagement with the board that I was the right person to lead in that position. The allegations from the comptroller are just that, allegations, and there have been follow-up investigations and I've engaged attorneys, tax attorneys, to look at those questionable expenditures, and at this point, that is truly behind us. It is, nothing that is being pursued. I am still the interim president and CEO. I think if there really was a question about that, then I wouldn't be sitting in that role right now, and I do have the support of the board. In fact, the president of the board was one of my references for this position. So, things happen. There's politics. There are a lot of issues that go on, particularly in large urban library systems. So, we have moved past it. I'm very proud of the work that I've done in this role. We've learned a lot of lessons from that experience. And, since that all happened, we have implemented brand new business expense policies, new conference attendance policies, new budget policies, new approval policies. None of these were in place before, which you might say, wow, and then you could say, yes, Anna, you can kind of see how things happened. But it certainly was an opportunity to make it a stronger organization. It's also a much more transparent organization. All of the financials are online, all of the minutes are online, all of the budgets are online, and that didn't happen in the past. So it was a hard lesson to learn, and it has made it a stronger organization, and I am very proud that I have been the one that's shepherded the organization through it. However, now's the time, really, for me to make a change, and I want to be here. I want to be here in Hartford, and I want to be with you, and take that experience has made me a stronger leader for the future.
Thank you. Luren, you don't get off the hook. I have one for you, too. In 1996, you separated from your employment from the Finley Hancock Library. What can you share with us about that?
Well, that was 20 years ago, so you're really digging. But I left there. My contract was not continued. I was moving ahead faster with technology than the very conservative board I had at the time was interested in doing. They were very skeptical of this thing called the internet, and it all revolved around a computer that I purchased using leftover maintenance funds from our automation contract. These weren't even dollars that were spent. We could either spend it on continuing education or equipment. So I chose to put that money to equipment. So it was a computer, and it basically revolved around that. And so in that case, I was at will employment, and the board could choose to send me away for any reason or no reason, and they chose to make that decision over the whole issue of the direction the library was taking with technology. And so I've moved on with my career, and I've shown with my career path since with 3 other libraries that I've been able to successfully lead an organization with no further issues of the type.
Thank you very much. And this, you can just keep the mic. Now we have a nice question. How will you get to know the Hartford Public Library staff throughout the organization?
Well, my practice has been, and as I mentioned, I've been at 4 different public libraries, that when I start in the position, I use a method that I developed years ago where I ask 4 questions of each employee. And I try to keep it on a very confidential basis. In fact, I've asked the employees, here's the form, here are the 4 questions. You can fill it out privately, seal it in the envelope. Nobody will see it until I open up the envelope. I meet one-on-one with the employees. And depending on the size of the organization, I'll meet with every full-time or regular part-time employee. Sometimes it's just the full-time employees. But I asked 4 questions, and these are based upon a Peter Drucker book, the famous management guru from many years ago. And the first question is, what is it that you do for the library? Second question is, who do you report to? The third question is, what is it that the library does that helps you in your job? And the fourth question, what is it that the library does that hinders you in your job? And you would be amazed to sit down with people and over a short period of time, and you might only have to meet with these individuals for 15 minutes at a time, but they get to know you and you get to know them, and in a short period of time, you have a great idea of where the strengths and weaknesses of the organization are, where there might be problem areas, where you might need to buy equipment, where you might need to settle some kind of a dispute. And I keep it all confidential. I take notes along the way, but they can have the form back, destroy it, whatever they want to do with it. And I found that to be the best and quickest way to get to know a staff, and you can do that with even a fairly large staff in about 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Same question to you, Molly. How would you get to know the Hartford Public Library staff?
A colleague of mine, when she took a job, decided that she was going to meet with each and every staff member on an individual basis, and just find out, maybe not those questions, but similar kinds of engagement with everyone. So I think it's really important as the new CEO that I would meet with all the staff, and just to get to know them a little bit, to give them that opportunity to get to know me, and to start that dialogue really early on in the process. I feel that what I felt today from staff, and I've talked to so many people, everyone is so amazingly friendly, and I get a real sense that the staff here this is your second family, if maybe sometimes your first family. It's a place where people are colleagues, they're friends, they spend time together here, they spend time together out of work, and they create that wonderful atmosphere. So I definitely feel it's a process, but I think as a new CEO, it's really important to meet with every single person and make them feel that whatever their role in the library is, it's all equally important. I mean, everyone, as long as what they're doing is making a difference for the residents of Springfield. Sorry, Hartford. It's like the new year. I always say the old year, but it's really the value that they bring to the organization. I know when I interview people, we're looking for a certain type of person. We want people who are just excited about working in the library and excited about working with the community, and I have that sense that you're all like that already, the staff, and I think it's important for me to get to know you on an individual basis. I think, there have been sometimes you have directors who they don't know the staff, or they only know the senior leadership staff or the management staff. I think it's important to know everyone, and just know and make them feel really important and valued to the organization.
Thanks. Bridget, here's another question for you. What is it about Hartford, and most especially the Hartford Public Libraries program and public services initiatives, that interest you?
Well, there's so much. I think I mentioned a few of them in my presentation. I mean, your connection with the new Boundless program, connection with the schools, very important and interesting. The Queens Library and the Hartford Public Library already have a relationship with adult learning. Home has come, and other of your leadership team have come to visit Queens, and vice versa. We've sent a team up here. So we continue to learn from each other. Actually, we took a page out of your book to expand opportunities for to new Americans for pathways to citizenship. So I'm inspired by so much of what you do on a public service level. I love the one book idea. I would love to see that expand and create even more cultural opportunities and cultural partnerships with the wonderful resources that are here in Hartford. But your early learning, that is close to my heart. As I mentioned, I started as a children's librarian in the Middle Country Public Library on Long Island, and that itself was a model of early learning programming. I think you had a family place even at Hartford at one point in your history, right? And that was a program that started in Middle Country. So those are the areas I certainly am very interested in seeing continue, but there's so many more great ideas that you've got out there that I heard little bits of when I was meeting with the staff today. So from a public services perspective, I mean, really there's no limit. It's just capacity and resources, right? And that's what I would want to bring to that, is finding those resources for all of your great ideas, because I know you have so many creative ones, and finding different ways of doing things. I mean, this building in itself is innovation personified, of the different kinds of rooms and programs that you offer, and I would want to continue that culture of innovation, that culture of trying things out. You've got the Passport. There's other libraries that do the Passport services now, but I think you were one of the first ones to do it. So continuing to be innovators, continuing to take risks and to try things and see if they work. That's an important thing, and some things won't, but some things really will, and then that'll be an important thing to build on in the future.
Thank you. Just keep the mic.
Okay.
What's the hardest professional decision you've ever had to make?
Without a doubt, the hardest thing I've ever had to do is lay off staff. And that has stayed with me since then. That was incredibly difficult, and it was not only hard on the organization and the people affected, but it had a long-term ripple effect. So I would do anything I could to avoid ever having to do that again, because it is so incredibly disruptive and and long-term impact, negative impact on the organization. So having to make that decision, and I didn't make it alone, but it certainly was, as the director of Buffalo, that was what I had to do, and we did it. But that was the most difficult thing.
Thank you. Luren, what attracts you to this position in Hartford, and what can you do here that you cannot do in your current position?
It's the quality of the programs that you have here, the quality of your facilities, it's your location. We're in a position where I am now, which is a very good, very well-funded library with a lot of excellent programs, where we really don't control a lot of things that we do. We're a part of a larger consortium. So when we want to do something technology-wise, we sometimes have to wait for the consortium to move forward with that. We're also a small suburban library, whereas this is a capital city. It's in an urban area, and you have so many exciting things going on here. I mean, I could go on and on with some of the things that are attractive, with this potential for the UConn campus moving in and maybe even sharing facilities here, some of the arts programs you do, the media programs you're doing with youth, and the partnerships with the schools. It just seems like there's so much good work that's being done here. That's what is attractive to me. And now, having met the staff, I just think it's the whole package, and that really is very attractive to me.
Thank you. Molly, this question is for you. What system-wide and city-wide strategies would you implement to shift a conversation from the closing of branches to increasing the library's presence?
Okay, so I understand the question. If the issue of closing branches were to be something that had to be discussed, how would I shift the conversation?
To increasing the library's presence in the city.
Okay, well, in Springfield, as part of our Rethink Springfield Library, we set a baseline for open hours in our branches, and that was a recommendation from our consultant, and it was accepted by our board and the mayor and the city councilors that we wouldn't go below 30 hours in a branch. So we basically looked at our funding and said, how many branches can we support? And the dialogue in terms of what we call repurposing a couple of branches really worked very well. We took one branch and it was a branch that was a little outdated. It had a collection that was way too big for that community. And so we worked up a plan. We collaborated with the Springfield Public Schools, and we turned that branch into a community learning center. So we have a small express library with about 10,000 books that was completely renovated with all new furniture, and it really works well. We have, in the same space, which was about a 7,500 square foot space, we also have our adult literacy program, which has been funded. We started with a grant and has been funded by the Department of Education for the past 20 years to over $300,000 a year, and that targets adult learners reading level 0, beginning from 0 to 5. And then we also brought in an adult education program from the school department, which does GED training and practice testing and testing for GED. So we've kind of created a comprehensive community center, and that was, so we were able to leverage some funding from different sources and make this a really vital part of the community. One library, we actually, because it was so close to another one and the use was just really not, we couldn't get it to increase even no matter what we did. We actually repurposed that into a senior center for a community that had lost their senior center. And we now have a liaison from the library that works with the senior center, goes there once a week, brings books, helps train people on computers, which is, whatever the seniors want to do. And we have a liaison from the library that works with the schools in that neighborhood. So by doing that, there are people and staff that feel we shouldn't have done it, but by not taking a building and closing it and boarding it up with plywood and making it just a very unpleasant part of a community, we were able to repurpose the building. It now has a beautiful park. We were able to find park money from the park department in Massachusetts. There's quite a bit of money, and it's become a really nice community center. So I think you can look at multi-use for buildings. I think collections, and I don't have all the statistics on the collections that you have in your branches, but I think we're really looking in Springfield to really reduce our collections and create more community space and shared community space. So bringing in what you're doing here with the UConn and working with the schools and shared facilities, it makes things a lot more sustainable because you're bringing in different sources of funding.
Thank you. Luren, same question to you. What system-wide and city-wide strategies would you implement to shift conversations from the closing of branches to increasing the library's presence in the city?
Well, I liked what was happening there at the Albany branch, and I was, very impressed with all of the different community partnerships going on in that specific location. And I would think, and what we were told was that there were a lot of advocates in that specific community for that branch if it were ever endangered. But I think the thing that needs to be done is to develop those partnerships, whether it's with some economic development group, with a charter school, with some other organization, a church, a school, whatever it might be. And that bolsters the library's presence in that area. And I would think that that's, in the end, going to save the branch and make it irreplaceable, because it's performing such a great role in the community. And I was really impressed with the size of the meeting room. I think that community room that they have there was very impressive. And the fact that the librarian, the branch manager, comes in after hours and meets with each of these groups. I mean, she's, what they call the embedded librarian. She's the community engagement librarian as well as being the branch manager. And that's what you need. At our library, we have a community engagement librarian. We have just 2 facilities. It's a much smaller community. But we go out and we're active in all of these different community groups and associations and city meetings and school meetings. And that's what it takes. And at some time, I have to think that it's going to develop a partnership, and whether that saves the branch or not, I think that's going to benefit the institution.
Thank you. I know we're running out of time, and I have a whole stack of questions, but I have one more for Bridget. And then I have one for all of you. Bridget, the system, and I'm reading this as it's written, our system is in the process of developing a new public service model with plans to open up a new branch, and it's either in Fog or Frog Hollow. I'm not sure what. Is it Frog? Okay, Frog Hollow. And moving the Mark Twain branch to a bigger and new facility in collaboration with the Hartford Public Schools. What do you think are the important factors that need to be considered in managing these two going forward? Do you want me to read that again?
Yes, please.
Okay, the system is in the process of developing a new public service model with plans to open up a new branch in Frog Hollow and moving the Mark Twain branch to a bigger new facility in collaboration with the schools. What do you think are the important factors that need to be considered in managing these two forward?
Well, I guess I could answer that in 2 ways. One is, managing the projects, and I'll just speak briefly to that because I have a lot of experience managing, capital projects and moves and renovations and things. But I think really maybe the question is getting to the heart of how do you think about new public service and new facilities and moving forward with that. The Mark Twain branch, I visited it in its temporary facility, which I didn't realize was temporary, and I thought it was actually pretty nice. The way that it's in, and to learn that it's swing space is even more impressive. Those collaborations with schools, I think this community, Hartford is really at the cutting edge. So you got 2 that are going to be co-located within schools, and there's a lot of power there and real strength, and also leveraging public investment for both learners and student learners and adult learners. But managing that really is going to take a creative eye to see the kinds of staffing positions that you want in there, the kind of resources that will be in there for collections. I know we are all very, very connected to our print collections, and I am too. I still read physical print books, but we've found that I have found through a lot of different collection projects that when you streamline a collection and actually make it smaller, circulation goes up. We had a library that was devastated by Sandy, and that the circulation at that library had been very, very low. We lost the whole collection. We put back a tiny temporary collection in a swing space while the library was being built, and the circulation tripled, and it was like 1/3 of the size. So when we moved back into the new library, we said, you know what, let's see if this experiment continues, and it did. Now, that's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but when you're thinking about new space, you really have to think about who is the population that's going to be served there, and what kind of resources do they need. The U Media sites, the one here is absolutely amazingly impressive, and thinking about having one of those also at Hartford Public High School is great. So I think those are the public service models. You have an opportunity with new buildings and new spaces to really think about how you want to be creative in your staffing structure, in your outreach structure, in your collections, and the way that you organize space to create those flexible learning spaces and those places people can come together. So I don't know that I've fully answered that question, but I did my best.
Well, this is a short question, and this is the last question. And I do want to remind everybody there's treats at the back, and our candidates will be here. So if I didn't get to your question, please ask them. Come up and ask them. But in 5 words or less, and you have to stay to 5 words or less. Each one of you, and Molly, you'll be glad we'll start with you this time again. Describe your first impression of the Central Library as you saw it.
I was totally amazed and impressed. Is that?
That's 4.
I get one more?
You can have one more.
Magnificent.
Luren?
Wonderful, impressive, larger than I thought.
Very good. Bridget?
Oh, it's tough. Inspiring, state of the art, wonderful.
Hey, that's not working.
Okay. Well, you all have done a wonderful job this evening, so thank you very much.
Thank you.